Mister, is a tariff-free deal still possible? We're looking for an English clip, sir.
103 conflicts of
Is a
interest.
tariff-free deal still possible, sir?
Mr. Carney, you said you had no possible conflicts of interest. We now know you have 103. Mr. Carney, Mark, look inside yourself. What do you have to say to Canadians who feel they've been lied to?
In the private sector, there's no possible conflict of interest in your assets. It's very difficult to believe.
Look inside yourself, Rosemary.
Mr. Carney.
103 conflicts of interest. You lied.
Mr. Carney. Mr. Carney also said he only owned cash and real estate. We now know he has over 500 investments, 90-something% of them in the U.S.
Yes, welcome back to another episode of Stand on Guard. This is David Krayden broadcasting to you live from Ottawa. We will be having Katie Pasitney back on the show today from Universal Ostrich Farm. She'll be joining us in about 10 or 12 minutes, and she had a very late night getting back to British Columbia from Ottawa yesterday. Looking forward to that. When we come back, we'll do a few of the stories that are in the news this morning.
Mister, is a tariff-free deal still possible?
The Prime Minister lied and his minions continue to lie.
We need political change. But we also need to resolve to resist.
I want to explain it as well. Yesterday's interview that I featured with Katie was not new. Yes, I wanted to reintroduce a lot of the folks to the subject matter because it's finally getting some traction with the mainstream media. And it's largely positive. Not quite as positive as the stories I've been doing, but largely positive. And of course, Katie has received this letter from Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And his support has been instrumental in bringing the attention of the world onto the plight of this ostrich farm that the Canadian Food Inspection Agency is trying to force to kill 399 ostriches because of an outbreak of avian flu that might have occurred last November, December. The birds are all flu-free. And everybody seems to acknowledge that, but that doesn't seem to matter to the so-called science of the federal government. So we'll be back with that in a little while. Want to feature the latest developments from Mark Carney, who continues to disappoint Canadians on a massive scale. Although, if you read the polls right now, he's apparently 52, 55% approval rating. I find that hard to believe, but anyway. We'll discuss that later.
Key point. There is no list of those projects yet. There's ideas out there. Today is about the future of our economies, or our economies, and how we weave them together so that they're stronger together. How we can build a new economy together. An economy that moves from reliance to resilience. We have too much reliance on a certain foreign market. We have too much reliance on certain commodities. We can build resilience, but we can only build resilience together. We have to move from division to unity and move from operating in silos into partnerships. The Building Canada Act defines projects in the national interest as those which meet 5 criteria. Strengthening Canada's autonomy, our resilience, our security. Providing other economic benefits to Canada. Having a high likelihood of being successfully executed. Contributing to clean development and our environmental objectives, and advancing the interests of Indigenous peoples. Examples of those projects could include highways, railways, ports, new energy, and trade corridors. Key point. There is no list of those projects yet. There's ideas out there. Projects will be proposed by many stakeholders. The provinces have ideas. There will be ideas from the private sectors. And there will be ideas directly from First Nations.
No list, no budget, no imagination, no plan. This is a man who's doing everything on the fly. You know, we used to use that expression, flying by the seat of your pants in the Air Force. Well, Mark Carney is governing by the seat of his pants. He really doesn't know where he wants to go except to aggrandize the prime minister's office with more and more power and authority and to take that away from parliament. And he's trying to co-opt official opposition. He was successful with the bill he's talking about here. This is Bill C5, the self-aggrandizement for Mark Carney bill, which I like to call it, because it's about putting the control for these so-called projects in Mark Carney's pocket. And that's what this bill is all about. And unfortunately, it received wide party support, including from the Conservatives, who said they liked it because it changed the status quo. Well, I'm sorry, that's not a good enough reason. Not a good enough reason. But here's a couple of minutes from Polyev talking about Mark Carney's continuing refusal to seriously deal with his conflicts of interest. He wants you to focus on Donald Trump and tariffs because he doesn't want any more questions about his personal finances. We still don't know how much this man is worth. We do know he has interest, financial interest in 103 different companies. And he's got investments in almost 500 US and international companies. What do you think he's worth? Hundreds of millions of dollars? And how conflicted can one prime minister be? Let's have a few words from Pierre on this one, because I don't think he's been tough enough, but I think he's at least waking up to the fact that this is a serious crisis.
Came out yesterday to offer a variety of criticisms of the Prime Minister on this front. He specifically said at one point that this is a cornucopia of conflicts of interest in these investments like we have never seen before as a Canadian Prime Minister.
There is a cornucopia of conflicts of interest in these investments like we have never seen before from a Canadian Prime Minister.
What do you think of Mr. Poilievre's assessment?
Yeah, absolutely. And he's not wrong. We've never seen this before. I mean, there is a difference between being in a conflict or having a conflict of interest and then not properly managing or mitigating your conflicts. Everyone who holds assets has potential conflicts when they take public office. The question is now, can they do what they need to do to make sure Prime Minister Carney mitigates those conflicts and does not put himself in a position to, I think, harm the public's trust?
It's always good. I think he's gone beyond not harming the public's trust. And this is certainly one massive issue. Now, I want to play a bit of the other major story that broke late last night, and that's, once again, Donald Trump seems to be doing a 180 on the Jeffrey Epstein list. If there is, in fact, a list, Attorney General Pam Bondi, 1 month says there is a list on her desk, then says there's no list at all. Now, suddenly there is something to share with the public. This is a good thing. But in the process, I think Donald Trump has looked really ridiculous at times. And I've said that. And you all know I've been a supporter of Donald Trump in just about everything he does. But when he does something really stupid, I'm not afraid to say it and to call it out and to criticize it. Because what I always tell people, and I've worked with politicians most of my adult life, when I was in uniform, working in Parliament Hill, don't tell them they're doing the right thing when they're doing the wrong thing, because they're very susceptible to flattery, and they're very susceptible to thinking, I can do no wrong. Don't criticize me because I'm above criticism. And I don't care whether it's Donald Trump or it's Pierre Poilievre in Canada. If they're not getting it, we need to point that out, because megalomania and politics are never that far apart, and it's very necessary to do that. But let's listen to a little bit of Benny here. Benny Johnson, who I always say I worked with at the Daily Caller. Benny was trying very hard to be reasonably objective and fair with his story, because he's very much very much a supporter of Donald Trump and this administration. And he doesn't like to criticize Donald Trump, but he just couldn't stand the fact that the MAGA base was very upset about the lack of transparency over this Epstein file. So let's listen to a bit of this, and hopefully Katie will be on deck shortly here.
Breaking news history. Right now, the President of the United States has ordered the Attorney General to turn over and release to the public all available Jeffrey Epstein evidence and testimony, witness testimony that they currently have. President Trump says he's going to put an end to the Democrat scam right now. And most importantly, Pam Bondi has responded and given a date when this will be done, and you will not believe what is happening. This is a victory brought to you by audiences like this one. I want to take a very quick moment and thank you. It is audiences like this, a channel like this, that never gave up on this issue, has been like a dog with a bone for the last 10 years on this issue, demanding justice against the predators, demanding truth, and not looking back and not bending the knee and not apologizing and going into the halls of power like we just did this week with the Speaker of the House, speaking to the most powerful people on this planet about this issue. We have never relented, we have never changed our tune, and we have always asked for the truth. And we may well get it because of the laws of thermodynamics. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction, man. And that is what's happening right now. The Wall Street Journal and their insufferable.
Just have to, that's not the law of thermodynamics, but the first law of thermodynamics is that energy can neither be destroyed nor created. But I think I understand his point. But this is really a godsend for Donald Trump that the Washington Post decided to do this story. And it's really very fragile, the story. And Donald Trump, of course, is threatening to sue. In fact, he will sue. And yeah, I'm just good. Katie will be on shortly here. I'm just going to play a bit more of this.
Lists have been buzzing around DC and insufferable press circles. Snooty reporters have been whispering and tee-hee-heeing that President Trump will be taken down by this article on your screen. They just published it about an hour ago. It says Jeffrey Epstein's friends sent him bawdy letters for his 50th birthday. One was from. Oh, really? Show us. They can't. They're not in the entire article. Do they have a photo of the letter? They don't have anything actually about the letter except for what seems to be a fake typewritten on a typewriter poem that Donald Trump writes to Jeffrey Epstein. What? Using language that Trump would never use, and a hand-painted silhouette, Renaissance illustration of a naked woman. What are you talking about? With Trump's signature on it? People are roasting.
Okay, Katie will be joining us soon. I just want to show a brief clip from her news conference this week because I think it's definitely worth watching.
These are decades and decades of genetics. These are decades of personalities and animals that have been touched by the hands of our family, and they've been raised by my mom's hands, by us as kids' hands. They're named. They have personalities. They're loved beyond belief. There's no replacing that. And these animals, I think we need to get out of that mindset that we can just replace them. Once we take away the genetic diversity and we take away that natural immunity that is sitting on a farm, then you replace it with a young, naive immune system animal. They're still exposed to what is out there. So we're just seeing a repetitious pattern where these animals are still getting reinfected. But now what we're doing is we're losing the strength and the natural immunity, which the survivors, which you do not kill, those survivors should be protected and tested and pulled out. And then those survivors are going to pass down their antibodies to their young, where their young will pass it down. And then we keep immunity.
Yes. Greetings, Katie. Thank you so much for being here today. Was listening to that news conference this morning again, and I thought, this is somebody who has a grasp on the science of what this is all about. You understand that this is about natural immunity. This is about preserving the population of birds. And so you went to the appeals court this week, and wanted to share an email with you too. But and Justice Mary Gleason announced that they were going to reserve a decision on this with a panel of 3 judges.
That's right.
So these 3 judges are going to essentially determine whether or not they can overrule the Canadian Food Inspection Agency's decision order to kill almost 400 ostriches on your farm. So your thoughts about how the day went overall, and are you optimistic that you're going to beat this?
We are grounded in faith and have a lot of hope. I do feel like it went well. It was better. There was a lot more clarity into the understanding of those 41 minutes. There was 41 minutes before they made that call. They signed the call order in 41 minutes after receiving the first results from the Abbotsford lab. When you take the test, the only accredited lab in Canada is Winnipeg to be able to test for the H5N1. And so that was kept getting brought up a few times by her. And I do really think that we just, we talked about the ERP, we talked about 41 minutes, fettering, a lot of new things that little words and terms that I've been learning along the way. But I really do think that Omar did a really great job. He did a great job. He did a great closing. They have to recognize that we're 185 days today, but 183 or so there, that these animals have been living with natural immunity, and they deserve the opportunity to continue living with natural immunity.
Yes, and I judging from what I saw, the Crown attorneys, the federal government attorneys, they were just simply repeating talking points. And I didn't see a whole lot of new information or evidence there, but I wanted to share this email with you, which I received this morning. And by the way, I want to call out to Karen and Barry L., who are watching the show today. They're a huge fan of the story. But the email reads, "Happy Friday. I wanted to reach out to you regarding John Catsimatidis. The billionaire business titan has joined forces with U.S. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Dr. Mehmet Oz in an effort to save 400 ostriches at the Universal Ostrich Farm." So obviously you're aware of this. Or do you take this as another example of public opinion moving your way?
Yes, absolutely. So, John, I've been so grateful to have developed a friendship with John over the past 6 months. And he's such an animal lover and such an animal advocate. He works with so many great causes. He is a hardworking individual that really wears his heart on his sleeve. So to have him come on board and support this, backing up RFK, backing up Dr. Oz, backing up the whole saving these animals, I've been so lucky with such amazing people. It's been a really long journey. I always have to apologize sometimes of these mornings. It's been go, 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 and we ended up missing flights and sleeping in an airport to get home. But then when I get a letter from, say, the RFK, this latest letter from RFK, or I get this letter from John and he sends it in to Mark Carney, I'm reminded constantly of why we're fighting, what we're doing here, and why to keep pushing.
Yeah, well, I put that letter up again from Bobby Kennedy Jr. because I think so many people were excited and really, really animated by the fact that he was so interested in this case, and I think he's done so much to advance your cause here, and it's truly become an international story. And as I listened to the Crown or the government lawyers, like I said, I didn't hear anything about anything rooted in science. This is all about politics.
Yeah, David, you're so right. We actually talked about it yesterday. We were like, again, just saying nothing really, like there was nothing really materialized that was new in structure or depth for science. Or I really thought that they were going to talk about the quarantine a lot more. They left the quarantine out. They just repeated a lot of past material from the judicial appeal in April. But it was, we have an erosion of trust within these organizations like the Canadian Food Inspection Agency that's supposed to be protecting our farmers, and it's doing the complete opposite, and it's attacking. I like to say they're running around like children with loaded handguns, and they're shooting aimlessly, and they're just taking things out, and they don't know the repercussions that are going to fall on our lap in the next coming years with no natural immunity. So this fight is definitely, we're seeing a loss of our farmers, the genetic diversity, biodiversity. We're losing everything. And when we lose that, there's no getting it back when natural immunity is gone. That's where you start to see develop zoonotic diseases. That's where you start to see mutated viruses and things that are growing, because you have animals that are not a strong host anymore. They're a weak host because they're young animals and they don't have their natural immunity that they've developed over the time on this earth. So we're really fighting hard to keep our farmers. We're fighting hard for all small farmers, all large farmers that have been affected by this, and not just ostriches, it's cattle, sheep, goats, pigs. We're with everybody, and we're standing really firm in our fight for everyone.
Clearly, it's other animals, but as I've said from the beginning, why everybody should be concerned about this issue is because where do they start next in terms of government overreach and violating the sanctity of your private property, coming onto your farm and insisting you kill up to 399 ostriches without any scientific basis? Do you think the government is just fighting back because they hate to admit that they have been wrong about this from the very beginning?
Absolutely. I can't deny feeling that way. That's for sure. You feel like that they're digging their heels in deeper, the longer this goes, because they don't want to prove that there is a mistake. There would have been a mistake. There would have been a catastrophic mistake if we didn't stand up for these animals, and we would have never become the first recovered flock in Canada. We would have never garnered the attention to say, hey, maybe we should slow down on killing these animals. We never would have got this far. So absolutely. I think we are at such a pivotal time in Canadian history. I think we really deserve some wins. This is a major win for all Canadians in our agricultural sector. If we can set that precedence to show that these organizations need to work with us, not against us. I think that there's a better way of doing things, better way to develop science and come up with different strategies and work with our experts like our healthcare workers. Our government should have been working with our healthcare workers, not attacking them when it came to mandates. The same thing with our agricultural sector. They should be working with the experts, and that's our farmers. And they should be asking us what they should be seeing what we have for advice. That our hands have touched these animals for all these years, and we understand them the best. So, it's a long journey, but is it ever worth it? Is it ever worth it? And I don't know what's going to happen next week. We're sitting at the edge of our seats waiting for a decision. But we are definitely prepared to take it to whatever step is next.
Well, I guess that was sort of my next question.
Yeah.
What is the next step? If you don't find justice at this point, what's the next step for you?
The next step would be, if it's a split decision, we're kind of talking that we would have that ability to go to Supreme Court. We would be applying for a leave to go to Supreme Court, and Supreme Court is not guaranteed though. So we're just taking at the moment each day at a time, and heavily relying on all that love and support around us. Still trying to educate as much as possible about what we're fighting for here, with people like you that do such an incredible job sharing this information out there. And we're just we're definitely nervous.
Well, there is incredible interest in this story, not just in Canada, but the
Yeah.
U.S. I've written several articles for U.S. publications, and they're very interested, not just because the Health and Human Secretary got involved, but because of just a sense of injustice with this, and just a family farm being attacked this way. I thought there was injury added to injury from the government at this appeal hearing when they revealed that they expect your farm, a family farm, to pay any legal expenses incurred by the government. Like the government can't afford this. And I just find that absolutely outrageous. And what it reminded me of, Katie, is what the government lawyers, what the Crown is trying to do to Chris Barber of Freedom Convoy. They literally want to take his truck away and shut down his livelihood. I mean, well, how would this would be devastating for you, would it not, if you had to pay legal costs
Oh,
for
this
the
would
government?
be, we at the very end of hearing them go on and on and on. And when we heard half of their legal fees, we just kind of, we didn't, we wouldn't expect anything less, honestly. They came after us last time in the judicial review for half of their court costs. So it was insult to injury, though. You're absolutely right. We sat there in an emotional state of, you don't know if you're going to lose everything. Two families' livelihoods. There's almost 400 souls that are depending on this decision. These animals have so many more years to live, and so much opportunity to offer the world. And here they're coming after us with court costs. It was it was very sad. It was a very sad moment. It really was.
Well, it's punitive, and as I say, it's more than insult. It's secondary injury, and that seems to be what they want here. But I'm curious. Are you disappointed there hasn't been more political support? I mean, I'm not expecting anybody in the Liberal cabinet to come forth. I'm disappointed, and you might feel awkward about responding to this, but I'm disappointed that Pierre Poilievre, the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, this is the same man who walked from the House of Commons across the street to meet with the Freedom Convoy 3 years ago. But he has said absolutely nothing about this case. And I don't think he could lose, actually, politically lose, because I know most of the grassroots supporters of that party are probably in your camp on this, and they're supporting this. So, excuse me. I think he's making a mistake by not stepping out and supporting you, and you do too. Yeah,
I do too.
Because
it's been heartbreaking to see, actually, that we're getting garnering so much more attention and support from the USA, and they can take their goggles off and see through the lenses that we have something huge for economic opportunity. We have something here to help animal and human welfare. They can understand the science of avian influenza better than our own government. And, Trump's big, beautiful bill on July 4th, they're really moving in the right direction. And I think we really need to pay attention. Would have been really great. My son traveled to 3 different rallies of Pierre's, 3, waited in line for hours to meet him. And to, that was one of my son's questions. Well, have you heard from him? And I said, nope. And that was really disappointing for him to be a 23-year-old boy and has done so much to pay into the party, travel to meet this man and see that this is happening. And here we are getting the letters of RFK and Dr. Oz. And it's been disappointing. It's been very disappointing. But
I find it incredible. But because he's not, there's no federal election right now. So if he's worried about perhaps alienating some voters who won't vote for him anyway, what he's really running for now is not just a by-election in one of the most conservative parts of Alberta. but he's really fighting for his leadership. And I think
Yeah.
one way that he could probably sustain that leadership would be to appeal to a lot of the grassroots supporters who come out and vote. So the grassroots supporters who are very active in the party, and he's not doing that. So I don't understand, but I share your concern that it's American people, American libertarians, American small c
Yeah.
conservatives, American Republicans who are coming forth and saying this is unjust, this is wrong.
Yeah.
And I'm not hearing enough about this from Canadian politicians. Were you satisfied with the mainstream media coverage of this appeals court date? Because I went through, I think, all of it, and I was impressed. You got some of the major outlets out there that I don't even watch very much anymore, except to find out what they're doing. But
Yeah.
in terms of mainstream Canada, yeah, they still watch Global, they still watch CBC, and they're still reading the major dailies. Were you satisfied that they seemed at least to try to be fair about this?
They have been fair the whole way through. I really have to say, minus one or two maybe articles that have not been the best. I want to say thank you to the mainstream media because they have really pulled through. They've shown up. They've done good coverage. They've done very honest stories for the most part. Really staying biased, really, or not biased, just really looking at the whole picture, looking at the science, asking really good questions. And they have been good to us. They really have. So everybody asks me or has said to me, oh, be careful, stay away. But they've really done a great job. So I have been satisfied. Yeah, there was a lot of fear there in the beginning because everybody was saying, you better be careful, and they could tear you apart, and they definitely have had that opportunity. But I think we're all seeing as Canadians that our families' food and food security and their freedoms and things are on the line again. And I think that this is affecting a lot of the mainstream media journalists, the journalism. Sometimes I talk to them before and I say, do you have kids? Do you have a family? Because what would happen, if Canadian Food Inspection Agency came to your door, how would that feel? What would you do? And we go through that whole process. I've gained a lot of relationships through this process as well in that area.
Yes, I'm sure you have. This has been a heck of a difficult time for you and the farm, and I think you've weathered the storm admirably, and I think you've communicated the message. But I will say, the mainstream media, like I worked for years as an Air Force public affairs officer. I had to deal with CBC and CTV and Global and all these people on a
Yeah.
weekly basis, and I always found that if you were honest with the mainstream media and if you presented your point and you just said, here, watch what we do. And I used to say that about the military. See the great job we do saving people's lives with our search and rescue. See the great job, how dedicated these men and women are. And to a person, everybody who came to my base in Comox, in your province, left with a positive impression of the military because I said, here, you're free to watch and you're free to see what these people do, how they're so dedicated to their jobs. And I think that's true with what you're saying, is that the government hasn't got a case. There's no case here for science. And I think the journalists are seeing through it. I saw the same thing happen with the Freedom Convoy trial that I attended with Tamara Leach and Chris Barber. Initially, the mainstream media was almost on side with the government and the prosecution, saying, these people are just outrageous, and these horrid truckers.
Yeah.
By 3 months into that trial, I even saw outlets like CBC were sympathetic to Tamara and Chris because they listened, and the evidence, as far as I was concerned, was overwhelming. And I think that is on your side as well, Katie. The evidence you have is overwhelming. And this is clearly about politics. This is clearly about the government wanting to impose its regulations and its rules on you. And I guess that's what worries me most about this, is that what are the implications for Canadian society and government overreach in general if they get away with this, in your opinion?
Oh, it'll be catastrophic. It's not even just if we can't set a precedent here of how hard we fought, if we cannot get past the 6 months in jail being threatened 6 months in jail for testing or treating your own animals, and up to a $200,000 fine per animal. If we can't get past these hurdles with the policy and start restoring the trust and faith back in Canadians, it's you know, this is it's a catastrophic failure. Yeah, we really need to look at repairing these organizations. We need to look at healing that trust. The farmers we're going to run into a really big problem with no natural immunity. I keep saying that. Let's go down that road. With no natural immunity, we are creating disease, we're creating viruses, we're allowing those to mutate, we're creating a lack of biodiversity, genetic diversity. Our farmers are giving up. They're surrendering. We're going to see a shortage in food security. We're going to see with a reliance on more government supplied meat and food. We're going to see it would be awful. I mean, and I think that's why we're garnering so much attention, so much support, because it's not just this doesn't make sense just to the average Canadian of a family, but then it's a farmer, and then it's a mother that is trying to feed her children and
And you're starting to break up there, Katie. But thanks for joining me today. I know you had a trip from hell yesterday back from Ottawa to British Columbia. Flight's delayed. So thank you very much for joining me. And that was probably all I wanted to ask. But thanks for spending some time with us this morning and for being a part of the show today. And sorry about that, folks. We had some breaking up at the end there, but I think we had 20 minutes with Katie, and that was fantastic. So thank you so much for watching that. I've got another little sidebar story here, which I think will be of interest to you, because you know how we have criticized the government's heat pump. This was Justin Trudeau's pet project, the heat pumps that are just great if you live in Florida for heating your home, but not so good if you live in Edmonton or Sault Ste. Marie or places where it gets a little colder. So this is, shall we say, a comic, tragic tale of the heat pump scam.
Thompson's North Vancouver home might be cool, but his blood is boiling.
Not stoked about it, that's for sure. Definitely pissed off.
This spring, Thompson contracted Moore & Russell Heating and Air Conditioning to install a heat pump in his house. The $20,000 job was supposed to come with a FortisBC rebate that would cover half the costs. It even said it on the bill.
$10,150 FortisBC rebate qualified. Quote, no hidden costs. It literally says it right there.
But he didn't know the company's certification to provide rebate qualified service was temporarily suspended by the Home Performance Contractor Network, or HPCN. When he applied for the rebate days later, FortisBC denied it.
At first I was shocked because it was a huge company in Metro Vancouver, reputable, and had been on that list. So I was like, well, this must be some sort of mistake.
Moore & Russell's certification was revoked because a new technician hadn't finished a training course. The company's GM says they didn't find out about the suspension until months later.
And HPCN's program manager sent an email to us informing us that our account had been put on pause. But unfortunately, we never received the email, and HPCN doesn't have a process even still to follow up.
But HPCN said emails and follow-up emails about a company's status are standard practice. As many as 200 customers were served by Moore and Russell over that time and subsequently denied rebates totaling about $1.5 million. Thompson says the program as a whole needs to do a better job telling customers which companies are certified.
It's unfair to me from all the promotion from Fortis that, it's straightforward and you're going to get your rebate back and it's anything but. We got stuck in a hole.
Moore and Russell says it's once again in good standing and hopes the rebates will be honored.
So once again, more evidence that this Liberal government's programs are as flawed as its policies. And I just find this to be outrageous. And even if the guy gets his rebate, it's not going to work. These heat pumps are completely ineffective unless you're living in a very warm climate where the winters are not very severe. Unfortunately, for most of Canada, including my backyard here in the Ottawa area, it gets pretty cold here. And the heat pump is not going to do it. So when we come back, some concluding remarks, and I'll talk about who else we're going to be talking to in the next 24 hours. Yeah, I'm in nobody's pocket. That's the cup for you. You want to, and we got a T-shirt just like it. Have a look at the store. I think we've got some great merchandise. I think it's some of the best out there. Going to be talking this afternoon, and I'll probably put it on tomorrow's show, unless I've got two more interviews today. I've got Kayla Pollock will be joining me at noon, not live, but we're going to be doing an interview about the global news expose on the vaccine assistance program, which has done nothing. VISP, vaccine. It's absolutely not delivering for any of the people who have been adversely affected. Can I say that? For any of the people who are suffering as a result of the vaccine. Yeah, we know it's safe and effective. No. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of buyer remorse out there, including from yours truly. Yeah, I should have listened to some people I knew who said, don't do it. But I didn't do my research anyway. But Kayla has got quite a horrendous tale to tell. This is a woman who went from athletic form, and now she's in a wheelchair. And now she's suffering the effects of that. And she's fighting back, though. And, and they offered her maid instead of assistance. That's disgusting. That's a hallmark. That's emblematic of this Liberal Trudeau Carney government over the last decade. Just offer them maid. Don't try to help people. So Kayla and I are going to be talking about that. That interview will probably be broadcast tomorrow. And I'm going to be talking with Don Dix at 5 tonight. But once again, that's probably going to be held over. I might put that on tonight. But that's going to be a tremendous interview because Don Dix is a bit of a expert, if you will, an authority on the Bohemian Grove. And it was rumored that Mark Carney was there this year. Yeah, he went to Australia, but took a pit stop on the way back to Bohemian Grove. So this will be a fascinating interview, and I can't wait to talk to Don late this afternoon. Thank you for watching today, folks. It's always a pleasure to be here to broadcast the show to you live 7 days a week from our nation's capital. We appreciate your support so much. Please continue to subscribe, continue to give this station a thumbs up, and share it with your friends and family, because that's how this show is marching forward. We're nearing 60,000 subscribers. I wish it was 40,000 higher, but we've been suppressed in a big way, but I'm never going to give up. I'm going to keep fighting, and I'm going to keep delivering the truth in a way that you, as the viewer, deserve. Thank you again for friends today who tuned in. I really appreciate your support. All three of you. Thank you very much. Bye for now. I'll be back again tomorrow with all the news you need to know. Godspeed to all of you.